I'd like to welcome back today regular contributor David Caton. Welcome back, David.
Thank you, Richard.
Now then, David, since our last work on UFOs and NATO, the film, which you can watch from this link, you had some health problems. Just tell the viewers about that, David.
Yeah. Well, on the 8th of March, I had a sudden severe heart attack and 3 arrests within 45 minutes. And the paramedics were marvellous, and they were here in less than 5 minutes, the first one. So they cut the clothes off and jumped me with the electric defibrillator, and then I went again in the ambulance, and again they took me to the Manchester Royal Infirmary, and I went then, and then they put a stent in, having brought me round. So I was probably technically dead for about no more than a minute each time.
Right. So
I'm extremely lucky. After Christmas, sometime in January, I'm due to have an alien implant.
Oh, an alien implant.
An ICD.
Right, okay.
Which is an invasive cardiac defibrillator. So if I conk out again, it'll give me a shot.
Right.
So that's... Otherwise, I'm doing well.
Right. Incredible that you've survived that, David. 3 heart attacks and you were technically dead. I mean, can I ask you, when you were technically dead, any recollection of that? Any sort of...
When I was in the ambulance, just parked outside, it went very quiet and very peaceful. And then because all the rattling of the engine and whatever in the ambulance went. And then the next thing, the crew sort of shouting at me.
Right.
When they brought me round, with another jump start.
You just know that it was quiet and peaceful. You weren't in any distress at all or anything like that?
No. The trouble is, the pearly gates, they're so busy up there, there's a massive queue. And I was only 10 from the gates when they brought me back.
Okay. All right, well, at least you're still with us, David. That's the main thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, now, on to the grim research of David Caton now, because David's been researching the phenomenon of animal mutilation, a much misunderstood subject, and he's been delving into that, since the mid-late 90s?
97, I think.
1997. Yeah. Now, people have tried to explain this phenomenon in conventional terms. Just explain why you think none of the conventional explanations really fit the evidence.
Yeah, well, the common one is, of course, predation by another wild animal, and that means that animal's got to bring down and kill or somehow keep the target still, which is a difficulty in itself. And often there's wounds, like dogs attack or a leopard or whatever it might be, a big cat. So that would be a big difficulty, and there will be evidence that a predator's attacked it. But a lot of these injuries, there's no way that they could do what they do. And
a lot of people then suggest, well, it must be the military or some secret pharmaceutical company or whatever doing some sort of environmental testing. You don't buy that, do you?
No. I mean, it's so widespread, and the logistics of any military organisation, whether it be the Army, Navy and Air Force, whichever country, they would not have enough qualified personnel, like veterinary surgeons or people to go around to every little field in every corner of the globe.
Yeah. Some of the locations they're just extremely out of the way.
Yeah,
it's just,
But I mean, they wouldn't bother anyway, just for the odd sheep and the odd lamb, which have got the same telltale thing. So logistically, any military organisation could not cope with having the right equipment and personnel and the technique of doing this.
But don't think anyone's come up with any direct evidence from a military project.
If they were doing that, they wouldn't do it overtly, they'd do it covertly. They would go to a market or do a deal from the farmer or the landowner, buy so many animals, take them to some secret establishment, do the business, and then incinerate the carcass. They wouldn't return to the place that they stole them from and risk being caught twice.
Yes.
And upsetting the farmer if he's done a deal. That wouldn't make sense, would it?
Right. Now, people will say, well, why isn't this reported in our media if this kind of strange thing is going on? Well, it kind of is, but it's always not reported correctly. And a good example of that was the Mail Online and the Sun newspaper that reported on a case that we investigated in 2010 of a mutilated horse. Yeah. And they just said, it's a knife slasher. And if you look at the photographs, which did not appear in the mainstream media, but you can go to my website and have a look at them, it's clearly not a knife slasher. There's rectal core, there's a very precise jaw strip, there's wounds with extremely clean edges.
The Sussex police got the post-mortem report from the National Veterinary College in Potters Bar. Though they denied us a copy, they denied the horse owner a copy. And I rang the Royal Veterinary College 3 times. And they said, oh, you're not the owner and you can't have a report. So the horse owner's vet was an intermediary with getting the bill paid, which they tried to pass back to the horse owner, which was very annoying. So I think in the end the police paid the bill. They leaked, there was a press release from a female officer, and it was mentioned briefly that there was an internal organ removal. In other words, things that we could not see.
No, it said internal injuries, David, it said, I think.
Okay, internal injuries, yeah, okay. But I read that as there was probably removal of other organs, which we couldn't identify from looking externally.
Now, you've been doing further research into more strange animal deaths pertaining to sea creatures.
Yes. Well, in February, preceding that, I actually ended up putting pen to paper and produced this assessment report.
This is a 34-page report written by David, and it's entitled RETs Guilty of Mutilating Sea Mammals, and you can download it from the Richplanet website from the link on the screen there.
I thought it was worth a mention that Tony Dodd was contacted by a Scottish RSPCA inspector over the winter of 1991-92, because I think this is relevant to what we found more recently. And what was baffling the veterinary people up in Scotland, and we're talking about the Orkney Islands, on the 3 adjacent beaches they found 30 decapitated grey seals, and no heads are found. And what was baffling them particularly, they were bloodless as well, of course. There was no evidence of any activity on the beach by anybody, military or otherwise. And all the cuts through the neck, through the vertebrae, were made from the same joint. Now, they could only examine the remaining side of the joint, if you like, because the head was missing. But what they noticed, there was no physical damage or marks onto the bone, which could have been caused by a blade of somebody wielding a hatchet or a saw or whatever.
Even if you sedated them, you'd still need some sort of radiography to cut right through that vertebrae, wouldn't you?
Because you've got a thick neck and the blubber, so obviously from the outside you cannot see the vertebrae and the joints in the bone.
Now, we are going to show some photographs of mutilated seals and sea creatures and perhaps other animals as well. So if that's something that you don't want to see, then please switch over now. It goes back to, what, 2008, is it?
Yes, roughly speaking, yes. So I was intrigued by a lot of reports, a lot of seal mutilations, particularly off the Norfolk coast, Blakeney Point. And the media were waking up to this fact, because seals, like horses and ponies, are very much in the public psyche, and people get more upset than seals being wounded and mutilated than, say, a sheep or a lamb even. And, well, first of all, the police, there was Chief Inspector Brown, who was in charge of the case, if you like, and the seals were sort of on National Trust property, although there were some further away up the east coast of Scotland, the Tay Estuary, etc. But the majority were off the Norfolk coast and were on the beaches around Blakeney Point, which is a reserve run by the National Trust. So a lady in the National Trust and Steve Brown were very helpful to me, and they sent me quite a few pictures and photographs. The MMO took over after a while investigating the whole business, And the police officer, Inspector Michael Brown, when I was talking to him for more information, he was quite cross and apologetic and said, I can't give you any more image or information because the MMO have taken over.
Right.
Now the MMO is a branch of DEFRA.
Right, right.
And I think that they clocked probably what the cause was and wanted to control, you know, any more information or more incidents. And I recognised immediately the telltale signs, if you like, of the wounds, which looked to me very much like animals. So I concluded if most land-based animals we've looked at before are mutilated regularly with the same modus operandi, it seemed reasonable to me that sea mammals, particularly the larger ones like seals and dolphins, whales, would similarly be of interest to
whoever is doing it, right?
Yes.
So starting in 2008, we've got seals start appearing on the east coast of the UK, and this is from St Andrews down the east coast to Norfolk. It's not just Norfolk, is it?
No, there were quite a number up
of
the Tay estuary.
Give us a summary of the sort of numbers, David, in terms of...
Well, off the Norfolk coast, they ended up something like 75.
And this is spanned over what time period?
From 2010 to 11, basically,
right.
So about 12 months, but most of them in the autumn when they're breeding. And one of the significant things is that they noticed, both from the Scottish ones and the Norfolk ones, there were a majority of females, and particularly pregnant ones, were targeted. They also were pretty sure that they'd been killed close to the shore in shallow water and then got washed onto the beach. I ended up over a period of about 3 years liaising with a veterinary surgeon that was at an RSPCA depot called East Winch, which is near King's Lynn, and his name's Steve Bexton, and he ended up doing post-mortems on 11 of the seals, strange wounds and strange, what intrigued everybody, and particularly the media, with these very odd spiralling cuts starting from the left lower jaw going round to the body, just deep enough in most cases of those just to take the outer skin, the blubber and a bit of muscle. But there were other seals which had different wounds, which they were, you know, cut from the head to the middle of the body, and there were not all these spiralling wounds. The interesting things at the back, that looks to me like a perfect circular hole, which really looks like an anal core. Here's another picture of a seal, which you can put up, and the skin is cut away, but it's the edge of the skin there. Has a similar effect that we've seen many times on other animals, where you look at the skin edge or there's a flap of skin being removed. We've seen it on sheep in Shropshire and elsewhere, which Phil Hoyle's identified. So that, and again, around the body there's a very neat circular junction between the outer skin and tissue beneath.
Right.
So I think that's significant.
So